welcome along to Rail Technology Magazine podcast. I'm Roy Rowlands, and this is a good one because I've got some great news to share. My guest today needs very little introduction to anyone who's spent time around in the rail industry. Anna Jane Hunter is the chair for the Board of Trustees at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, partner at Winder Phillips, specialist independent management consultancy to the rail industry, and someone whose career has taken her across some of the biggest jobs in rail. And the reason it's an occasion, I'm delighted to say that Anna Jane is taking over as a new host of TransCityRail, which, as many of you will know, it's our series of regional supply chain engagement conferences and networking dinners across the country. So before she's let loose on all of you at the next TransCityRail in Birmingham on the 9th of July, I wanted to get her in the chair to tell the story about how she got there. Anna Jane, welcome.
Hi, Roy. Nice to see you. The word is out.
Yes, the word is out, and I'm really excited as well to be able to make this announcement. I'm really looking forward to it. I think a great place to start this conversation will be the first time we ever spoke. It's a lovely little anecdote, I think, because I think it also tells the audience everything they need to know about how you operate. So if we roll all the way back, then you've just been appointed Network Rail's director for the North of England. And the way I understand it, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but your boss handed you my number and basically said, ring Roy, tell him you're available to speak at TransCityRail in Manchester. I'm driving home from work on a Friday evening. My phone goes, and there you are, brand new in one of the biggest jobs in the region. And the first thing you're doing is putting yourself forward to get on stage in front of the whole industry. What was actually going through your head on that call?
Well, I hadn't remembered it quite like that, but I think you're right, actually. It was something like that. So I had just been appointed into this new role in Network Rail, which, well, anyone who knows the history of it, it didn't last long. So that's a story for another day. But yeah, this new role that was all about the North of England. And I think different to kind of a lot of Network Rail jobs and a lot of those senior jobs, certainly at the time, because this is going back to 2018. It's a bit different now, I think, but things were quite inward looking at Network Rail, and they could be quite sort of, inward gazing. And I think Martin Frobisher, who was my boss at the time, who'd hired me, was kind of like, this role's a bit different. It's outward looking. And I'd been away from the North for a few years. I've been in London doing some rail strategy stuff for First Group. And so I really needed to reconnect with the North. Not that I ever need to, because I'm all about the North, but, needed to reconnect with what the industry were doing in the North and what's important. And I think Martin rightly thought that the TransCityRail event was a way to do that, a room full of people who are, buzzing about what's going on in the North, get yourself involved. And he knows I'm not a shy girl. So, the best way to do that is get on the phone to Roy, get yourself a platform on the stage. And yeah, the rest is history, isn't it? So there you go.
It is. You certainly made an impact and you had presence on that stage the first time at the conference in Manchester. And yeah, like you say, the rest is history. That became the start of, I guess, a working relationship with yourself. You spoke a few times at TransCityRail over the years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been lucky to have you involved in the platform ever since, which makes it rather fitting now that you're going to be the one running the room.
Yeah, well, that as they say, if you can't beat them, join them. So I've attended the event for years. I've really enjoyed attending the event. I haven't been to any of the other regional events. That's going to be a first for me, but I'm super excited about seeing, how the Midlands works in July and then Scotland thereafter. So, but the North one's obviously really special to me, isn't it? I can't lie.
Yeah, definitely. And me as well. I'm based in Manchester, and what gave me the idea for the event is, as an event organizer, to organize something in my hometown, which was going to make an impact to the region that I'm born in, was something I think I'm really proud of, and as is the team as well, because most of us are northern based.
Yeah.
Let's go right back to the beginning then. How did you end up in rail in the first place? Was it a plan or an accident?
Like lots of people in rail, like lots of the best people in rail, I like to put myself amongst them and say it was an accident, Roy. But you might say it was a bit of an obvious accident because I'm actually third, maybe even fourth generation rail, depending on kind of what you measure as well. So I'll show you something funny actually. I'm in my office. It's not funny actually, it's nice. Sat next to me in my office is a picture of me and my granddad. So this is my granddad Billy. And this is me. Actually, not long before he died, I didn't really know my granddad, but he was he was an area movements inspector on what is now the Northumberland line, but the Blythe and Tyne, he would have called it. And my dad was still working in the industry when I joined, but basically I trained as a barrister, hence the gobbiness, hence the inquisitive nature that makes me a perfect host for your events. I like asking questions. And I was struggling to get a job as a barrister, and my good old railway dad said, well, you better get a proper job for a while. And so I joined the Network Rail graduate scheme 20 years ago. So big shout out to the team of 2006. We're celebrating 2 decades in rail this year. Not quite as big as the Railway 200 celebrations, but we've contributed 10%. I joined as Network Rail grad, and then I've moved around. So I'm proudly one of those people under the age of 45 who's worked on the Network Rail side and the TOC side. There's not that many of us. We're a bit of a rare breed. So yeah, got in and loved it. Decided, turns out, couldn't get away from it. And then I went and married a railwayman as well, didn't I? So I've really cemented it and part of the family through and through.
Yeah. What was the pivotal moment when you thought then, this is the industry for me? Was it marrying a railwayman? No. Or was there something else in your career, one of the top jobs?
No, it was definitely long before that, and way before I was promoted above my first few positions. It was early on. I just thought, it's the people, Roy. You know from working with us, the railway family is something I'm absolutely deeply passionate about. The people involved in delivering what we do, and the energy that they bring, the importance of rail to the economy, to our country, people turning up day in, day out, giving their all to that. It's infectious, actually. And that thing of, people just want to tell you about their job. And some of the roles I did early on, as a researcher out on site in major projects when I was in health and safety, then more latterly working with train operating companies like Cross Country, and then becoming a local operations manager. I think the kind of the link in all of those roles is the people, and just learning about what they do and how they want to make it better, and playing even just a little part in trying to make the whole thing better is just what did it for me. And yeah, that's what I've been into ever since. That's what I still do now.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we can get through a podcast yet where we don't talk about the rail industry being a family. A family of people who've got each other's back and helping each other out. Which leads me to my next question, and I'm going to preempt it with, you're not the sort of person to leave things to chance. You do make things happen. But we all need a bit of luck in our lives, and for people to give us an opportunity. Who took a chance on you early, or saw something in you before you saw it in yourself?
Well, the person I always thank and still thank to her face, and I'm fortunate enough to work with her now in one of my voluntary roles with the Railway Benefit Fund, is definitely Jo Kay. So she was route director when I went and did my signalling training, which I didn't do as a graduate trainee. A lot of people did and do, but the scheme worked differently then. So I kind of missed the boat on that and came to it later. And she kind of said to me, look, if you want to get into ops, if that's where you want to be, then you need to go and do the work, and gave me the opportunity to go and train and become ultimately a local ops manager, which is something that I really loved doing. So I still do that work now in my day job. I do work in the rule book, and to do with signaling and stuff on that hard ops side, which is a bit of my brain that I like working when I'm not doing this kind of softer stuff. But yeah, Jo was a great kind of booster for me early on in my career, and I'm fortunate enough to still work with her now.
Oh, lovely story. So you talked about the opportunity then, and moving up into the ops space, and each step up is a different kind of job. What was the hardest transition? The point where the role changed faster than you expected, because you've gone from top to infrastructure owner to the private sector.
Yeah, there was a couple of pivotal points really in that space. So I was local operations manager here in Liverpool, which ironically, I live in Liverpool now, but I didn't at the time. So things come round, don't they, in a weird way. And whilst I was doing that, I loved aspects of it. I loved the people side, as I've mentioned. I loved the performance improvement side, working with the operators and that kind of thing. But there were aspects of it that I wasn't as strong in and wasn't as confident in. Would you believe? Not confident in something. I know you find that hard to believe, right? But it was more on that rules side at the time, because I was managing some signallers who honestly had been doing it longer than I'd been alive. I was in my 20s, they'd been there for decades and knew far more than I did about, how to run trains, to be honest. And whilst I always tried to bring a bit of humility with me into that, whilst I was in the role, it kind of changed. It pivoted towards a lot more competency assessment. And that was a big aspect, or becoming a big aspect of the role. And I kind of just said, you know what, that's not for me. And funnily enough, now I think I would feel a lot more confident doing it, in my 40s. But at the time, it just wasn't a great fit. So that was kind of what took me into the TOC side. Because an opportunity came up, and that was more on the train crew side, rostering and that kind of thing. And wow, that was a change, because I thought I'd worked with trade unions, I thought I'd worked with T's and C's on the signalling side, but boy, is it a change when you go over to the operating side. And our friends and colleagues at ASLEF are another world of knowledge and power, frankly, in what they do. They're excellent at what they do, and I just found that a massive learning curve. The detail involved in that side was immense, but loved it, and found probably my happy place really working in a train operating company. I loved it. It's the best place I've ever worked, except for John Lewis, is what I always say, because I worked there before I had any of my proper jobs. So there you go.
So why did John Lewis trump?
Well, John Lewis is just a lovely place to work. Again, it's that family thing, I think, because
Right,
you're a
okay,
partner,
yeah,
aren't
true.
you? And you
Yeah,
really
yeah.
feel invested in the business, even as a Saturday girl, and a Sunday girl, really, I was.
Yeah.
You feel really invested in the concept and in the delivery of the business, which I think is something I've taken with me through my career, even though it was just a student job. But it was a lovely place to work. Yeah.
So how did your view of the industry change then as you moved from operations then to your leadership roles at Network Rail?
Yeah, so I went back to Network Rail after about 6-7 years away. So my time in the operating in the train operating company and the owning group thereafter. And I think Network Rail had changed a lot when I went back into that kind of more senior role, part of the exec team in the Northwest and kind of the Northeast as well, because of the nature of my role. And Network Rail had gone through some changes in terms of reclassification, being more sort of in the public eye with their finances. Some major projects had not gone well over the years. It was a different kind of, different climate, I think. And the relationship probably with the outside, I think had changed quite a lot. So I like working collaboratively. I think we'd all say that, wouldn't we? We like working in partnership, but that's easier to do when things are going well. It's easier to do when you've got more levers to pull. People didn't have as many levers to pull. They felt a bit more constrained when I returned that second time. And you know what? You got to try something, haven't you? It got me back to the north. It got me out of the big smoke. It was an experimental role that has quite a lot of history behind it. And then the Putting Passengers First reorg came around, and COVID came around, and I had some kind of health problems at the time, and I just thought, this is not for me. I'm going to do something different. And the knock on the door from consultancy came. So big challenge, big change. Didn't expect to be doing that in my very early 40s. I probably thought I'd do it in my 60s or something. But it's been great. I've had a great 5-6 years with Winter Phillips. It's great fun.
Well, that takes me an answer to my next question, because I was going to ask, proud moments. What have been the biggest highs in your career so far?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I'd pick out loads of highs. I've loved it all. That's really corny, isn't it? But I have. I mean, even the difficult times, when I look back, I think I really did learn loads from it. But I've been privileged to do a lot of stuff. I've been privileged to work with some really high-profile stakeholders, like the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, who might well be our next Prime Minister. Who knows? Had some fun working with him through some difficult times, May 18, the timetable change, but still learned loads. I've travelled a bit, I've travelled abroad with my work, which is not something that everyone gets to do in rail, but I've been to Italy, I've been to Israel, I've done some kind of cool stuff there. I've been really privileged to just be involved in the variety that the industry has to offer. And I think that's what I really love about it, is just the opportunities to see and do, loads of different things and work with fantastic people, everywhere I go.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same about my career. I can never pinpoint, and usually in personal life as well, never pinpoint one, almighty high, something which I can put out there as a
Mm.
standout thing I've done. I enjoy everything I do. I enjoy making mistakes as you learn from them. I enjoy
Yeah,
trying things, different things, and each experience is completely different, isn't it? And it makes us
yeah.
who we are.
Aren't we lucky to love what we do? It's a great privilege. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I really do. I meet some great people, conversations, with people like yourself. I've had some
Hmm.
conversations over the years, some of the events that I've attended, not just my own, and you get a real sense that, we are all just in it together. We've got the same common goals, which is to do the best possible job we can do every single day that we're doing it.
Totally. So it's all about.
So, what's it all taught you then so far? If you stitch everything together in your career so far, what's the lessons that run through all of it?
Well, I think that thing of it's all about the people has got to be a really common thread because without the people, we've got nothing. You can have the best engineering, you can have the best widgets, you can have the best trains, but really without the people knitting it all together, I just think, it's for nothing. And actually, the industry is here for people, to serve the people of the country, and whether that's moving goods or people, that's what we're here for. And the people are the ones who do that. So I think that would be a common thread. Um, and I think that teamwork, that partnership work in virtual teams, and that kind of links to the family thing is so
Yeah,
big and timely at the minute, with us changing the structure, and and us becoming part of the different railway family, the face that's changing. Actually, one of the most hurtful things that was ever said to me on the railway links to this. So when I was leaving Network Rail the second time, people send emails around going like, "Oh, so and so's leaving. We wish them well." And I think it was really clumsy at the time. I won't say who did it, but they'll know the person who wrote this email. I think meaning well, said, "Oh, Anna Jane's leaving. She's going to work outside the rail industry." And I think what they meant was, I'm going to work, in a different bit in the supply
yeah,
chain or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But actually, I've never left the railway family. I've still stayed in the supply chain. And as you know from the events you run, the industry's so much bigger than just Network Rail and the Talks, or just Network Rail
yeah,
Talks and DFT. It's massive. It's thousands
yeah,
and thousands of people who reach across the whole supply chain. And so I think that's something I've learned over the years, is that the family is so much bigger than you think. And if you take the absolutely broadest definition, it's bloody massive. And we need all of those bits, not just, the core bits that people might see in the uniforms, or, whatever it might be.
yeah. On that then, um, let's look at, as an industry, we want more people coming into it. We want to
Yeah.
grow the family. We want to make it bigger. Lots of people are coming into it all the time, and most of the people that I talk to, like yourself, get into it accidentally, and never leave it. But what would your message be to a student either leaving school looking for an apprenticeship, or someone finishing off their A levels, not knowing anything about the rail industry, but stumble across this video on YouTube? What would be your elevator pitch to them to come and join the rail industry?
I should be so well rehearsed at this, because not only am I doing it in my my voluntary work tomorrow, I'm going to our next generation conference at CILT, which is totally about that. But my stepson is also just doing his A levels, and I'm having these conversations all the time. Can't convince him yet, but hope one day he might fall into it. Look, the industry is just so varied, and like I say, if you take that broad definition, there's something for everyone, and there's something that I haven't even thought of yet, and that you and I haven't even envisaged. The industry's not going anywhere. It's so necessary to what we do, whether that's transporting people or goods, connecting communities, furthering economic growth, reducing our carbon footprint, whatever it is that gets you excited, as a young person, or as a person wanting to change your career. You might not be young in years, but you might fancy a change. Rail's where it's at. There's something for you. Come and have a look, because I'm sure you'll find your passion, and you'll find passionate people who you'll enjoy working with.
Yeah, I'll second that. They definitely will for sure. Right then. Well, moving towards the end of this conversation, the reason why you're here as well, is to talk about your next job, host at TransCityRail. You're taking over as the host of the conferences and the networking dinner. So let's look at what you want to do with it then. TransCityRail is at the heart of the industry. It's about bringing the industry in the same room. What does that mean to you?
Well, look, I think that's what's really great about these events is that it brings together not just one little corner, but it's really broad in terms of who's in the room. And, you know, I've got big shoes to fill. Helen's done a great job for a number of years. I've enjoyed being at her events, but, you know, I'm going to bring something different from inside the industry. And what I enjoy doing is asking some of those kind of really in-depth questions, pushing people a little bit further. We get a lot of presentations from a lot of people in the industry that sometimes don't say a lot. And I think the opportunity that I bring is to say, hang on a minute, let's just go a little bit deeper. Let's kind of lift the bonnet a bit and see if we can explore in a bit more detail, because I bring that understanding really from the inside. So I'm looking forward to doing that in my own, you know, kind of style and often quite a light-hearted way. But I think maybe that's how I get the answers out of people, is being a bit more approachable and light-hearted than a techie geeky person. That's not me. If that's what you're after, then maybe there's a different event for you.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, for sure. So the networking dinner is a big part of the event as well. And although you know, it's about networking at the dinner, what are the takeaways that you would advise people to look to establish and take away from these dinners?
Well, I think the two go hand in hand, because the daytime is about, you know, absorbing the information, absorbing the content, and really engaging with the speakers in that kind of, you know, in that environment. And then the evening is about, let's have a chat about what we've heard today. Let's reflect on that together. Let's network in that way and kind of and see people who you haven't seen for a while. There's people who I only really see at TCR North. That's actually quite true. I rock up in November and genuinely look forward to seeing people that I don't get the opportunity to see all year. And I love that about that event, that it is a bit of a regulars but you know, we welcome newbies as well. It's not all about the regulars. But it is an opportunity to just, in that relaxed environment, that more relaxed environment, just have a chat, maybe a little bit of an off the record chat about how we're really feeling about stuff, and just reflect on what we've heard both in the room during the day and more widely.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about the day then, let's flip back to that a little bit. You know, who do you want to hear more from at these events? Whose voices do you think we're missing sometimes?
Well, I'm not going to focus on individuals or voices per se, but I think the messages I feel like I'm not hearing enough of at the minute. In the GBR space, we hear a lot of stuff about GBR, but I think there's some more difficult conversations we're not having about that, about what challenges we've really got to overcome around things like harmonisation, you know, of the workforce, around some of the future, you know, makeup of the detail of what is it going to look like and how we're going to work together. There's a lot of holding hands and singing Kumbaya. We need to start, we're getting there. This is happening next year. We need to start asking some nitty gritty questions, I think. And then on the more kind of projects and infrastructure side, look, we're a nation with a bit of a problem with, we ain't got enough money and we're not great at running projects. Sorry if that's controversial, but it's kind of true, isn't it? We tend to go over time, over budget, and you know, end up in the headlines, and the nation's a bit cash strapped. So we need to be, you know, being honest about that. What we're going to do about that, because we're not a great advert for ourselves sometimes at the minute, along with some other notable people. It's not just rail, but let's really talk about that. You know, where are we going wrong? Where could we do better? How can we help each other, and what can we learn to try and do better? You know, who's doing it well, and what can we take from that? And that's a really great opportunity about events like this, because you get those different voices where you can, you know, cherry pick the best, and maybe learn from some of people's pain points as well, because they'll share them openly in that kind of environment. So I'm looking forward to getting into all of that. Does that sound enough? Is that exciting enough for you, Roy?
It does, it does. That's exactly why, you know, we were looking to mix things up, get someone from within industry who knows it inside out, who can help us illuminate some of the conversations in a way that only someone can do from within inside the industry. And we've had an incredible few years with Helen. She's done a phenomenal job with the event, and she'll definitely be missed. So, like you said before, you definitely got big shoes to fill. But I'm very confident you're going to fill them, and it's going to help us take TransCityRail as a brand, as an event, into the direction that we want, but the industry has been asking for, more importantly, and we like to give what our customers are looking for.
Yeah. And of course, it would be remiss of me to not say, actually, that I'd also like to see more female presenters, a more diverse panel generally. And I would include in that what we mentioned before, the up and coming. Who are the future stars? Who do we need to hear from? Who's going to be the next, big name? Who's going to be the future regional directors, the future, managing directors of our industry? Let's hear from them a bit. Put them on the spot.
Well, I've got a really exciting idea about that, which I'm not going to talk to you about on here, but it feeds in exactly to the future rising stars, and I think you're going to like that.
Good.
So now I've baited them with our next new thing. Let's come to a close and just look at some quick fire questions. Best station in Britain?
Well, this is such a tough choice, but I'll go with Allenmouth. Not only is it home where I get off to go and see my parents, but it's a beautiful entry. If you've ever come in through the estuary, the little coloured houses, it's a sign of home, and it's beautiful.
Lovely. I've never heard of it, and I knew there was going to be a personal connection as soon as you said it. Window seat or aisle?
Oh, window. Yeah, window.
The one thing you'd fix in rail tomorrow if you had the budget and no commitment and no committee to argue with?
Oh, you see, I can't answer that quickly, Roy. That's just too big. But if I really had a blank check, I reckon I'd harmonise train crew terms and conditions properly.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Tea or coffee early on the train?
North or south? Coffee's safer. Southern tea's terrible.
And finally, finish this sentence. Rail's biggest opportunity in the next 10 years is?
To get GBR right. Let's do it properly.
Yeah, agreed. It's our North Star, and we've got to put everything we've got into it.
Definitely, totally agree. Yeah, it is genuinely a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's happening now. As much as people might have been like, is it not? I think we're on the bus now, and if you're not on the bus, then you're not coming with us. So get on board and make it a massive success. Definitely.
Anna Jane, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see what you do with TransCityRail and how you're going to work with the team. To everyone listening, you'll be seeing a lot more of Anna Jane across our conferences, networking dinners on here. Come and meet her at the next one. Details in the show notes. You've been listening to the Rail Technology Magazine podcast with me, Roy Rowlands. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.